Hogwarts Legacy features a sprawling map absolutely littered with hidden treasures and things to discover. With so much to complete already that the game literally guides you to, it's no wonder that some of these more off-the-beaten-track treasures are left undiscovered by most. So, let's shed some light on 25 hidden free gifts ranging from nice but secret loot to funny interactions and Easter eggs. Be sure to grab yourselves a butterbeer for this one, and let's get to it. Kicking this off is a very simple yet very sly hidden door up above the trophy room on the way to the headmaster's office. Walking past all these panels on the wall, note that each has 2 diamonds, but this one here mysteriously only has 1. Well, by walking up to it, you'll find it's actually a hidden door with a table and chairs, crystal ball, and what I'm going to refer to as a master level chest, because, you know, Skyrim. In the chest, you'll no doubt find some legendary piece of gear, whilst the room itself is no doubt some sort of hidden closet for the headmaster and divination teacher to read prophecies. This next one involves us discovering a hidden treasure by playing a very memorable tune. This started for me in the hamlet of Mainburg, where the merchant Agnes Coffey mentioned her pet Niffler was kidnapped and taken to a nearby crypt. Well, venturing into said crypt to rescue said Niffler, I then discovered this piece of parchment in a room at the end, pointing me to this X on this bit of land and explaining how the bells correspond to different musical notes. Turns out this piece of land is most of the southern region of the map, with the spot in the middle being Clagmar Castle. Now, I don't want to fight these guys because I just want to play some wizarding jams on my new set of bells. So flying over to avoid detection and taking a photo on my phone for reference, as I don't know music, I give it my best shot.
Lower Hogsmeade.
Anybody recognise that tune? Nah, me neither. Bit of an obscure one that. Still, a chest has dropped out of the sky, so that's pretty cool. I don't want to assume everyone got the same loot because a lot of these chests are RNG, but this treasure seeker's long coat is pretty damn cool, and I feel kinda like a pirate who went to the College of Winterhold. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you got this same bit of loot or a different one. Next up is a little hidden chest which can be found in an obscure location within the school library. By coming to this roaring fire and casting Glacius, we'll see that there's actually a little hidden room just behind. Within we can find a chest, and probably more interestingly, 2 immortals locked in an epic battle until Judgment Day. A potential homage to Pirates of the Caribbean perhaps. For number 4, I've got 4 treasures in one for you. You may notice around the clock tower where Crossed Wands takes place, these doors blocked by metal barriers. The barriers occasionally recede a little bit, only to slam back in place before we can get inside. It's frustrating because Revelio is screaming to us that inside there is a treasure. Well, fear not, because the solution merely takes a little bit of time to crack. First, you'll need to have unlocked level 1 lockpicking to make your way to the upper ramparts of the clock tower. Take note of the symbol above each of these doors, and notice how it corresponds to these 4 symbols across the swinging pendulum. When the pendulum approaches one of these symbols, the barriers on that specific door will recede, so all we need to do to get inside the door is stand right near it for a quick entrance, then cast Arresto Momentum on the pendulum as it passes the right symbol. With the pendulum slowed, the door should remain open just long enough, but you can grind the pendulum to an absolute standstill by casting Arresto Momentum on it twice. Though bear in mind, if you double cast at the wrong point, you'll have to wait for about a minute for the pendulum to move again. Doing this will not only give us the treasures inside each room, but it will also unlock a free gift from the Challenges tab for discovering a Hogwarts secret. The Hedge Maze is most widely remembered for being the 3rd task of the Triwizard Tournament, though there's also a massive Hedge Maze section in Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights, so maybe that's more widely remembered, I don't know. Either way, Hogwarts Legacy also features a grand total of 5 of these mazes scattered about the map. What's unique about these ones though is that they'll grow up around you rather than being there all along, which I'm pretty sure, come to think of it, the Goblet of Fire was the same type of thing. Anyway, best tip for spotting these then is to look out for the entrance archway, since it's the only part of the maze that's always visible, and by walking through it, the rest will spawn around you. Navigating to the middle, you'll find a piece of treasure with no need to make your way out again, as once complete, the maze will again despawn. It's a cool little Easter egg which yields us some nice loot and harkens back to one of the most memorable things in Goblet of Fire. They can be found respectively just south of Upper Hogsfield, just south of Lower Hogsfield, down in the middle of the South Sea Bog, south of the Phoenix Cave near Marramweem Lake, and finally just south of Cragcroft, at the bottom of the map. There's no boggart spiders or upside down lights, unfortunately, but there is the high level treasure, as well as some pages which tell the history of the mazes. This next one can be accessed by manually coming up from the map chamber into an underground storage room. It's an area absolutely teeming with free loot and numerous interesting things to discover. Provided you have basic lockpicking under your belt, we can first enter this room and go on a whole journey of frog wormholes, with each area along the way providing some decent loot. Then, a bit further along, we will come to 2 new classrooms, those being the ones for Muggle Studies and Alchemy. Muggle Studies is kind of funny in that there's a field guide entry involving a great deal of confusion over why Muggles would ever use cannons. Just goes to show how accurate Muggle Studies may or may not be, and I'd imagine there's a lot of misinformation that goes on there. Then Alchemy, whilst being no different to potions in games like Skyrim, instead focuses here on the transmutation of elements, and is a class only sometimes taken by older students. Heading further up from the map chamber is a completely hidden room in the sense that it blends perfectly in with the surrounding tapestry. But by walking at the centre here, it does indeed reveal itself to be a door, and leading to a whole hidden room no less. These are the Werewolf Tapestries, a tragic tale which can only be fully understood with the use of Lumos. By casting this spell in front of each of the tapestries, it will reveal the true hidden story laying beneath the surface. It's a pretty cool one to go and discover for yourself. If you played as a Gryffindor, then you likely already know about this one, but to my Hufflepuffs, Ravenclaws and Slytherins, here's a very cool room again teeming with unique loot, which fans of the books will no doubt appreciate. The Hogwarts Kitchens are situated directly beneath the Great Hall and are run by house elves. They prepare the food before transporting it to the dining tables above. That's right, the food doesn't simply get magicked from nowhere, it actually does have to be prepared. In fact, magicking food from nothing would violate Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration, which states that food, among a few other things, can't be created from nothing. Thus, we instead have this elaborate and well-maintained kitchen. Just like the Clock Tower Pendulum, this fire-based puzzle on the Hogwarts Viaduct also serves as a Hogwarts secret, which offers a decent reward on its completion. This round symbol on the ground will be our key to solving this one. As you can see, each of the 4 symbols corresponds to a different Roman numeral. What we have to do is rotate each brazier so that the right numeral corresponds with the right symbol. Once that's done, and they're all lit up, a hole in the floor will open, and we'll be able to access a second hidden floor underneath the viaduct. There's some decent RNG loot here, and once again, we'll also unlock a unique cosmetic item in the Challenges tab. The Disillusionment Eye Chests are without a shadow of a doubt the best way to rack up money quickly in this game. There's a ton of them hidden around Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, and many aren't too tough to find. One slightly more obscure one involves coming over here to the Hogwarts greenhouses and running all the way down to this little pond with a tree growing. It won't even be visible from the front, but there's actually some hidden descending stairs here. So, going down them, we not only will bag ourselves 500 galleons, but we'll also discover Professor Garlick's private mushroom collection, which might explain her spaced out way of speaking at any rate.
Please welcome the newest rose in our garden.
On top of that, visiting the greenhouses often and coming to this end one above the hidden herbology corridor, we can frequently harvest a whole bunch of venomous tentaculi. That's actually really great, especially before we purchase the large pot spellcraft to grow them in the room of requirements. And even afterwards, it's probably worth farming these ones too, as there's only so fast that these things can grow, and they offer some nice support in combat. Next we have the Hospital Wing, and yes, you'll Alohomora your way here during the Alohomora main quest, but it is absolutely worth returning later. There's some interesting medical documents to read pertaining to different students and teachers, but the absolute best reason to return here in my opinion, and this is probably only a daytime event, is this hilarious scene where a boy thinks his friend has turned into an Animagus sheep. It's pretty funny, so I'll just let it play.
Explain.
He was trying to become an Animagus, and we were in a field full of sheep.
All is now clear. What you have here is an Ovis Aries, commonly known as a sheep.
No, it's George.
Did your friend George hold in his mouth a mandrake leaf for an entire month?
What?
And equip himself with the chrysalis of a death's head hawk moth?
A what moth?
To which he added a silver teaspoon of dew from a place touched by neither sunlight nor human feet.
All I know is he said, a tomato Animagus.
The word is amato.
Oh, George! I know his voice.
Oh, he's after my boober tubers. Can you get him away?
George, stop it! Look, he knows his name. George?
What are you doing with a sheep? You can't bring a sheep into school.
Oh, sure, it was you.
Out! Right now! Now!
I look nothing like a sheep.
Another few places from the first Alohomora area are the teachers' quarters. Now, you'll have to return for most of these a little while later, as they require level 2 or even sometimes level 3 lockpicking. But when you do, it's not only a number of rooms full of more loot, each also seems to have a pretty interesting letter or two. Whether it's a communication from a loved one or a distant friend, breaking into your teacher's personal space and reading through their private communications is a nice way to flesh out your understanding of these characters even more. In Professor Ronan's room, we can even find a very similar cabinet to the one housing a boggart in Prisoner of Azkaban, albeit with 2 doors instead of 1. Then in this room, which I believe is Professor Sharp's, we can discover an entire art studio behind this fireplace which we extinguish with Glacius. Overall, each is definitely worth checking out for some free gifts, hidden secrets, and character development. Field guide pages are scattered all over the map in Hogwarts Legacy, with a large majority of course concentrated inside Hogwarts. A great way to rack up a ton of these pages easily and in one go involves heading to the reasonably obscure History of Magic class. A lot of you might not know about this one, since it's a class we don't attend as part of any main quest, but it's a pretty funny and well written side quest which introduces us to Professor Binns, a guy that despite being dead still has to go to work. I guess eternity can get pretty boring, so this guy chooses to spend his one boring the crap out of others. If you can stay awake long enough, you'll eventually get a tour of Hogwarts memorabilia, a ton of field guide pages and XP, and as a little reward at the end, a conjuration spellcraft. Defo worth checking out if you haven't already. Coming straight off of the History of Magic, heading through this little door at the back of the classroom, we'll wind up in a room full of ancient Egyptian artifacts. Very cool in and of itself, but if we cast Depulso on this stone here, we'll unlock a second Depulso puzzle room. I know, I thought there was just one as part of that quest for the Ravenclaw girl. This one though is a hell of a lot harder, I will warn you, so be prepared to have a big old think as you make your way through this one. It's definitely the toughest puzzle I've faced in the game, that's for sure. Here's a shop in Hogsmeade which incorporates a pretty unique idea which I really like. Bingle and Blatch is a store which can be entered from 3 different doors, and depending on which we choose, the store's interior will be totally different. Going from right round to left, we'll end up in either a bookshop, a dressmaker's, or what looks like a rudimentary hardware store. Each contains its own bit of loot, so we'll have to enter via all 3 doors in order to acquire it all. Now in my brain head, I know this is simply 3 different cells, with each being loaded in correspondence with whichever door we choose. But in my player head, it does genuinely feel like a really magical effect, and even in the context of a game, is pretty cool to witness. Mind you, I guess game mechanics like this have existed ever since Portal, but even still, it's nice to see such a cool mechanic carried over into this game. Whilst we're on the topic of Hogsmeade though, have you any idea how many different sprawling labyrinths are situated directly under this small village? Well, if you want to unlock all of Hogsmeade's free gifts, I guess you're going to have to get familiar. Behind this dodgy looking pub at the edge of town lies an entire ginormous Ashwinder hideout, whilst this cellar here has a hole in the wall which leads us into a gigantic spider lair. Oh, and I didn't even mention the classic one-eyed witch passageway linking up with Honeyduke's cellar. We'll head through this one on a side quest for Gareth Weasley, and again it's a sprawling labyrinth which miraculously doesn't connect up with the other 2 sprawling labyrinths which I just mentioned. Anyway, long story short, not all of the best stuff is at Hogsmeade's surface level. To get some of the best free gifts, we'll have to scour down in the depths. Here's a fun little room down in the dungeons. With lockpicking level 1, we'll be able to get through this metal gate, which leads down a corridor of mysterious blue light. Inside, at the end, you can witness this funny little scene wherein a headless ghost asks a lady ghost to dance.
No, I'm going to ask her this time.
You said that 40 years ago.
Did you see that? She looked at me.
My dear mound of shoulders, I'm afraid it was I that drew her gaze.
I'm going to do it.
You should, before the next century.
Oh, for heaven's sake, get on with it.
Milady, would thou takest my hand in dance?
Oh,
I did it. I asked her.
Forgetting anything?
Oh, goodness. Milady, might I borrow my body, perchance? Milady?
Care to dance?
Thought you'd never ask.
What a handsome couple we made.
Next up, we have the Hidden Statue Room, which is located between the Bell Tower Courtyard and the Potions Classroom. In here, we can find statues of all sorts: centaurs, stags, Merlin, but most interestingly is a painting of a Gorgon. By interacting with this painting, we will literally be turned to stone and have to perform the same button press that we do when hit by Petrificus Totalis. It's one of the more interesting set pieces we can interact with in this game, and it makes me wonder if any or all of the statues in this room were once living, breathing creatures. Well, one thing's for sure, the Wizarding World is home to some pretty scary creatures. Which brings me on to the Basilisk. No, I'm not talking about the one in the Chamber of Secrets that's laying dormant for another 50 years. I'm talking about actual evidence of a real basilisk currently roaming the south coast of Hogwarts. During the Shadow of the Mountain quest with Sebastian Sallow, wherein we travel up this mountain in the south coast, there's a little hidden cave protected by Devil's Snare. Lumosing our way through then, we'll find a legendary master chest, very nice, though more interestingly a couple of chicken coops, and a corpse laying in a familiar pose. Reading the letter on the body, we learn that this unfortunate individual was due an inspection into the illegal breeding of basilisks. Now it all makes sense. This guy relocated into the mountains to avoid the inspection and continue his illegal basilisk breeding operation. No doubt then he successfully bred one of these things and happened to look at it at some point, and well, we all know that one look at a basilisk's eyes is instant death. Mind you, he could just be petrified if he saw it in a reflection. After all, it's a pretty posy position for a lifeless corpse to be laying in. And returning later, the body is still in pristine condition, so if only we could actually feed him mandrake to see if he would awake. Alas, what's worrying about this is that there's now another real-life basilisk roaming the Scottish Highlands somewhere. Worst part is, by the time you spot it, you'll most likely be dead already. This next one isn't so much a material gift, but rather it affords us a moment to pay homage to the absolute gift of a man that Robbie Coltrane was to this world. Robbie Coltrane, of course, played Hagrid in all the Harry Potter movies, and sadly passed away in October last year. If we head down to this hut, the one at the end of the wooden bridge, or up from Lower Hogsfield, as opposed to the one by the Quidditch pitch, we can find it's not Hagrid working here, obviously, since it's 100 years before Harry Potter, and this man, in fact, seems to be more of a Quidditch fan, who values having a toilet in his hut, but seemingly not a bed. Anyway, if we come out to the side facing the Black Lake, we can see this little gravestone with some etchings, which I think are Latin, as well as a hippogriff statue. Obviously, this can't be a call forward to memorialize Hagrid in the future, because wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, but let's be honest, it's obviously a real-world Easter egg added by the devs to memorialize Robbie Coltrane. Not too far away, over by the Quidditch pitch, is a lesser explored area teeming with interesting things. The main story never takes you inside these outer Hogwarts battlements, but doing so, we can find some cool stuff and learn a thing or two. There's plenty of chests to discover, and it's also where the carriages and thestrals are housed. Most interestingly out here though are the living quarters of Gladwin Moon, the school caretaker with an excruciating phobia of demiguises. In fact, if we head up here, we can read the guy's diary entry. Turns out Gladwin's sense of self-importance is extremely overinflated. He claims here that Hogwarts would fall into ruin if he abandoned his post for one day. Now, I won't deny the caretaker is an important role, but I'm fairly certain this place is held together enough by magic that the guy could probably catch a day off or two. One of the most elusive treasure hunts in the game can be started up on this hill just south of Arranshire. And well, what we have here is a talking well, which is choking on a treasure map. Retrieving it, we're presented with a vague, nondescript set of instructions involving an old bridge, a tree, and Levioso. The toughest part of the search being to figure out just where the hell in the Scottish Highlands this place is. Well, turns out to have its solution just south of Irondale. If we look here, it's the same bridge from the map, with our character even commenting as we get closer. All we need to do now is lift the tree up with Levioso and voila. Personally, I received a cosmetic item from the treasure hunter set, but let me know if your reward was the same or different. I don't know about you, but I find myself returning to Hogsmeade a lot. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that sometimes it just feels like all roads lead there. You get me? Anyway, if you want to learn some interesting stuff about the wider Wizarding world as the story progresses, you might want to check out this stand with copies of the Daily Prophet. Upon interacting with the stall, in fact, we can actually bring up a full screen display with an article to read. This one explains how basilisks are actually bred by hatching a chicken egg beneath a toad. Explains our guy back in the cave with those chicken chicken coops. Though I'd wager the man mentioned in the article for being accused of breeding basilisks is not the same guy, seeing as, well, he's apparently still alive. Why would anyone want to breed one of the deadliest creatures to ever exist again, I hear you ask? Well, their incredibly potent venom, as I'm sure you can imagine, sells for a fortune. There's not many things powerful enough to destroy Horcruxes, and that's not the only benefit to basilisk venom. Next up, we have a big old treasure hunt with a lot of loot and interesting things to discover along the way. Cursed Tomb treasure can be started in the southern map region by travelling down here to the Old Manor. You'll want to head for this little crypt behind, the entrance to which is activated by a fire spell. You'll immediately be forced to fight not one, but 2 consecutive boss battles, the second of which kinda reminds me of the creepy tall guy from The Haunting of Hill House. After this, we'll receive another cryptic map fragment, leading to a treasure which is hidden by one of the most classic gaming tropes to have ever existed. Coming to this little cave here, just beneath the Goblin Mine where we enter this part of the map, the Tomb of Treachery is hidden behind the waterfall. Yes, just like so many games before it, Hogwarts Legacy has at least one secret area or treasure tucked behind a waterfall. Fighting our way through this dungeon then, and once again using the map to solve the puzzle at the end, we'll receive yet another unique hidden treasure. For me, it was another piece of the Treasure Seeker outfit, but for you, it might be different. This last one has been left to the end as it's undoubtedly a very late game thing and connects nicely back to number 1. Remember how I mentioned that door from the beginning was on the way to the headmaster's office? Well, further up that way you may have noticed this unique looking door with seemingly no way through. Well, if you've collected enough demiguises to unlock Alohomora level 3, then all we have to do is retrieve the one item we need to unlock this door. Heading up to the headmaster's office, we'll first want to come out here onto the balcony. Be sure to take in some of the absolute best views in the game whilst you're up here before pressing on to the highest room to pick up this key. With this, you can simply return to the funky looking door and it will unlock all 4 of the locks around it. Quite why you'd have 4 locks which can all be opened by the same item is a little beyond me, but hey ho, magic. Anyway, once we're through, you'll want to head up this long ass staircase before finally coming to the room which houses the Book of Admittance. The Revelio page in front gives a brief description on how it works, whilst there's also 2 chests containing either spellcrafts or cosmetic loot. This also classes as the 3rd Hogwarts secret, along with the Viaduct Puzzle and the Clock Tower, so we'll unlock a familiar looking cosmetic robe in the Rewards tab as well. The fashionable dress robe is also a story point in Goblet of Fire. Though 100 years after this game, these robes have definitely gone out of fashion. Poor Ron. Mind you, he did sort of say some meme words like a whole decade before it became a meme, so that's impressive.
What are those? What are those?
In fact, Philosopher's Stone did this even earlier.
What are those?
Anyway, comment below any more hidden free gifts in Hogwarts Legacy, and if I get enough for a second list, then who knows, maybe we'll do a follow-up video at some point. For now though, have fun finding these for yourself. Massive shout out to the supporters over on Patreon who help me to keep this up as much as I do. If you're interested in donating, you can do so from as little as £1 a month to unlock benefits such as being credited in every video, like these wonderful people, as well as access to early content and voting when I have multiple ideas. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, I'm Sam Brown, and I'll see you soon in another video.